Hello, and, well, fancy meeting you here. This is not your regularly scheduled weekly edition of your favourite Irish League pod. What it is, though, is what I like to think is a gift from me to you, as I know many of you are jetting off on holiday over the next few weeks. So here is your kicking match fix, kinda, which you can enjoy in the plane, bus, by the pool, by the beach. Another reason why I have dropped this summer episode is that it's here to announce that Kicking Match Live is returning. Yes, the whole gang is back. Ross, Joe, Matthew, me, Peter Cinnamon, by the way. And we are returning to the Linen Hall Bar. It was Pug Uglies. It's where we've had the other live shows. And we're coming back to there, central Belfast. The last show, which was the best one I've ever done. Loads were there. It was cracking. Everyone's been asking me about it. I've got it locked in. It's happening on Friday, the 31st of July, 2026, the week before the season. And you're all very much invited. So the tickets are available right now if you're listening to this, unless it's sometime past the 31st of July, 2026. Go and grab them, because last time it was a brilliant show, but if you were there by the end of it, it was just standing capacity only, and I would rather not have to deal with that. So to avoid disappointment and to avoid anxiety of 20 people turn up at the last minute and being said, sorry, too many people in here, get your tickets now. It's a cracking show. We're going to preview the entire season, and I cannot guarantee you that we won't see another Port's 12th. Whatever you're up to, see you there, central Belfast, the Linen Hall, formerly Pug Uglies, Friday the 31st July. What this is, though, is an interview with Michael Clarke. Remember him? Podcaster, commentator. He's away in Manchester, and before he went to Manchester, I did an interview with him, and I just never got round to putting it out. It was supposed to be a weekly episode, didn't happen, and it's just kind of slipped away into the archive. But in the archive, it is no more. It's now here for you to listen. So there's going to be some of these things that might sound slightly out of date, but why waste a really good interview? So here is me and Michael Clarke chatting for an hour about all things Irish League. Enjoy, and don't forget to get your tickets for Kicking Match Live, 31st of July. It's a Friday. See you there. It's a man who needs no introduction because, well, I've already done it if you've listened to this podcast. He's a name that you'll all be familiar with, and I've heard probably for countless hours if you're someone that listens to a podcast like this. Hello, Michael Clarke.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Or should I say goodbye and good riddance?
The second part, definitely. I don't know about goodbye. I'm not dying or anything. I'm just moving.
Do you think at any point over the past few years, as much as you believed and you had the confidence that it was going to happen, has there been any moment where you thought, you know what, maybe it's not going to go my way? Or has that doubt never entered your head?
It does enter your head. You'd be lying if you said you never doubted that it would come. I would say I've never doubted my ability, but whether opportunity would arise, whether things would align for me, there's always that question, because there's loads of talented people. There's huge amounts of competition for a limited amount of opportunities. So you have to be realistic and say geography's already against you. It's going to be difficult. So there was a period of time where you're weighing things up and thinking, well, I could potentially make this move with no guaranteed income whatsoever just to be nearer to the people that I want to work for and hope that they want to use me. And then you're thinking, is that sensible? At this stage in my life, do I want to be living like that? Thankfully, I haven't had to, because I'm able to step into a full-time job, which is going to allow me to do exactly what it is that I want to do. And from conversations I've had, they want me to make as much out of it as I possibly can. And I think they're not shy. And, you know, if I'm there for a couple of years and I step onto something greater, they'll use me as the champion for the next person that they try and recruit to say, look, worked for that guy. So they know, because of the volume of people that come through there, they're not stupid, they're incredibly experienced. But equally, as you've touched on, working for BBC Radio Manchester is a real privilege, and it's very exciting because it's such a massive sporting patch. You're working on Premiership and EFL football. There's loads of rugby, there's loads of cricket, there's loads of things happening. So because there's such a vibrant sports scene and so many people to serve, I'm going to be kept incredibly busy. So that it'll be a learning curve and it'll be an experience, but it's one that I've spoken about a bit now, as you could imagine. I just kind of want to sink my teeth into it and see how it all plays out.
It's all very exciting. you kind of wish in life that there was more moments and big opportunities like this. But here, if you can get them, enjoy it, and you clearly are, because I'm sure you've seen over the years, not even people here, but there's been opportunities. Maybe you see somebody else on Match the Day or whatever, and you think, oh, maybe that'll be the thing I want to do, and do commentary and stuff like that. But a bit like football, now your legs don't give out on you when it comes to commentating at 38 or anything, right? And that is not how old you are, but you
No,
must feel,
still
oh
35,
yes.
clinging on to
But
it.
like you're kind of going, if this doesn't come soon, will some young buck come from wherever it is, Leicester, be the one doing the job I want to be doing?
It could potentially happen, but equally, some of the best broadcasters ever didn't pick up a microphone until they were in their 30s. I've been doing this since I was 15. There's not too many people my age with my experience. So I have always been quite stubborn in that way and going like, no, I'm not going to accept defeat. My It's become a motto is you don't lose until you
Mm-hmm.
quit. And that's it. It's just I found something I really enjoy doing. Commentary is absolutely my passion, and this job includes commentary. The job advert was nearly a something I had to read three times to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding it. And even in the interview, I said, "This says I'm going to be presenting programs, commentating in Premier League matches, reporting and things, making podcasts. Like, am I going to get to do all of that? Because usually when these jobs are listed." It tells you duties that you might get to do, but realistically, they're going to get you in to do one thing. And if you're lucky, you might get to do the other things once or twice a year. And I was hesitant of that. And they said, no, it's literally, we're a very busy team and we need someone that can kind of play all the instruments. And that really appeals to me. And I understand why it wouldn't appeal to others because some people are super fixated on doing one thing, and that's good as well. But I've always been one of those people that probably just how frantic my own brain is. I like to be kept active and busy, and I couldn't do a normal desk job. I think I'd go crazy. So I just love the difference that every day offers. So that's kind of where this has led me. But in terms of, do you ever doubt it, or do you ever worry, or do you ever wonder? It's all natural to have those thoughts, but at the same time, you can't compare yourself to someone else. All you can do is, am
But
I
you
getting
do though,
better?
Michael. We all do it. You can't pretend that you don't.
When I started out and I was, squeaky teenager, 15 years of age, community radio, when I started out, I was always wanting to be as good as the people on Five Live and Match of the Day. I never compared myself to anyone locally, and everyone locally was better than me because I was, day one. But the point of it is, I've always aimed for the stars because if you don't hit them, you still might end up higher than otherwise might have been possible to get to. So when I see people doing things and doing well at things, I genuinely do think good for them. They won't limit my success. I just have to put myself in a room. I've always tried to tell myself it probably changed in my mid 20s. Early, like 15 to 20, I was finishing school and going to university. There was no one day I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
it was just kind of play and figure it out. Then, as you get further into your 20s, probably the insecurities creep in when you start to realize you really care about it and what if you don't get it. As I've got a little bit older, I've realized that I do think I'm good enough. I just need the right people to know that I'm there. So, how do I get myself in a room with them? How do I put myself in front of them? And that's what it's been about. I told the story on this podcast quite a while ago now, Peter. Congratulations on so many episodes. If you've lost count, then you can forgive me for losing count. But that once upon a time, I was in a BBC, knocking my microphone over. I was in a BBC AM High opportunity in England in Evesham in a training camp, and a person from a company had said to me, "Why is it your dream to work for me one day?" And it wasn't my dream to work for him, and I didn't mind in my early 20s telling him that, and he sort of scoffed at my confidence and said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, before I'm 30, I'll have commentated on the Champions League." And he said, "That's ridiculous. Who from Northern Ireland's done that that you can think of recently? That's pie in the sky." And I said, "Well, that's what you think, but equally, I don't want to work for you, so I don't care what you think. And I got up and I left the room, and everyone was really shocked because everyone was queuing up to go in and speak. It was like speed dating. You were in there 3 minutes. What the hell happened?
Yeah.
And I went, I hate that guy. I'm not going back in there. Best of luck to the next person. And the fun bit is that when I was 29, I commentated on the Champions League for the first time. And I've no idea if this person in any way remembers that conversation, knows who I am. In many ways, it doesn't matter. But the point was, I was able to prove myself right. And that's kind of, I'm self-competitive. I speak my targets out loud and I hold myself accountable. And sometimes that's very hard to live up to, but that's what I do to myself. And I say, by this time, I need to be in this place. And so far, I'm not far off it.
Do you find yourself as one of those people that get motivated when somebody says you can't do it?
You've played football with me.
Oh,
Any,
oh, you're making it sound all chummy. Oh, these media people. Oh, Michael, how are you? I played football with you on Wednesday. Great
yes,
touch, my
well,
man.
I love a bit of banter, but if anyone starts getting a bit chirpy, I get extra incentive. So yeah, probably in a
Boys
messed
and
up
girls, he's a
way.
slobber. That's what he is.
Yeah, I am a slobber. Yeah, it surprises people so much too. It's
You're
also
feisty.
yeah, it's like I leave it all at the white line though when I come off the pitch. That's the important thing, everybody. But it's a bit like my music taste. I was giving somebody a lift the other day, and I just had a playlist on in my car, and they were like, "Oh, I didn't think you'd listen to that," and I think they thought I'd just listen to like the top 40. It was
Mhm.
like the most mainstream cheesy, and I'm like, no, no, no. But anyway, I digress. I'm just one of those people that I am self-motivated, and I probably relate quite a lot to Roy Keane when he's like, "Why does everybody need people to tell them what to do? Just just go out and do it and do your best." And probably I've got to a point where I try and advise people to stop waiting to be picked, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Stop waiting to be picked and start going out and backing yourself. If someone else doesn't see it, that's one person. It doesn't make it the fact for the whole world. It doesn't make it your place in the pecking order forever. And I've worked under lots of different people to know that you can move up and down in pecking orders as time goes on and as people come and go.
But has that not been somewhat your career to this point, where if the opportunity isn't there, you made it for yourself, be it through community radio, be it with the score, where there wasn't a door for you to knock on, you kind of created your own.
Pretty much. And it's nearly like impatience is a virtue. Just the flip the normal saying, because people will tell you you're doing really well and we think this and we think that, and they have you on their time scale, which is as soon as someone older clears off, we'll eventually consider bumping you up. And you might not want to wait that long. And sometimes people who are a bit more pushy might progress a bit faster, and it's a weird thing that happens. I don't think it's just a media thing, it's in life in general, because bosses are always trying to appease the people that work for them, and sometimes the people that say yes and agree to extra hours, or agree to cover, or never cause any problems, those people get taken for granted a bit more than some of the others. It doesn't mean that you stop being a nice person, but it does mean that you start backing yourself a wee bit more and saying no to some things, and also understanding that it's okay to ask for things or say that, well, I feel I'm ready for this, or what do I need to do to get to here? The the argument I'll have is sometimes now, and I'm going to sound old, is people when they're starting, and I say this because I've trained so many people coming through. Sometimes people want to get to the end at the start, and you
Mhm.
can't. You have to serve your time, and you have to learn. And people who have been there longer do know more than you, and ask questions and open your ears and maybe speak a bit less. Those are all good bits of advice. But there comes a time when you know what you know, and it's time to ask for a bit more. And I don't think you should be embarrassed or afraid to do that, even though it can be scary. And I know not everybody likes doing it.
Is that maybe one of the frustrating things about being in the media? If you're playing football, to a certain extent, you need to get picked, right? But you can be somewhat undeniable on the pitch, where if you score as many goals, you'll always do it, and winners win, right? But technically, in your job and the role that you have had, you've not had to rely on someone to pick you, but that can be the daunting thing. You need to get the game, and maybe sometimes you're thinking, I am ready to do this task or get this opportunity, but I'm just not being given the call up yet.
Yeah, it can happen for a number of reasons. It could be, for example, not being a member of staff, and in my case, being a freelancer. So, not to confuse people, but I last summer left full-time employment to be completely freelance, completely my own boss, which was, I mean, there's another story we
You've had
can
a
get
fun couple of
into.
years, Michael.
That was scary, but the the time before that, when I did have a full-time job, I was still freelance with the BBC and TNT and any other organization I was working for. So at times, naturally, organizations are going to favor staff. It could be for budgeting, it could just be to be fair to their staff. But you have to understand then, as a freelancer, that might mean that you don't get that chance that you think you're deserving of. What it took me a while, and these are all things from a few years ago, but it took me a while to kind of develop the understanding of most of the decisions aren't personal. So you can't take them personally. That's hard because
Because nothing is more personal than your passion.
exactly. And we're all, I know people will probably throw up at this, but we're all kind of like artists, aren't we, in a little way? We're doing something, we're expressing ourselves, we're doing something we really care about, and we want everyone to see how good it is when we do it. And sometimes maybe you don't feel completely seen. That might not be the case. There could be other factors in the way. And I've probably benefited from being in a managerial experience in my life where I've had to manage people and give people news they don't want to hear or whatever. And then you start to go, okay, well, and maybe that's why that's happening to me, or oh, maybe them saying that, as nice as it sounds, actually isn't for me. It's for this other thing. There's loads of things that goes on, but yeah, if you're not strong-willed and you're not thick-skinned, it's a difficult industry. You will get frustrated. You will at times think things aren't fair, but you just have to keep going. If you're going to lie down and quit over that, I would question whether it's for you. And I've just become calloused by it in that way, where I'll not go full Roy Keane, don't be a baby, but it is a wee bit of just keep going, and if you're good enough, your chance will come.
I know you're going to say, oh, since I was a boy, I can barely remember a time where this wasn't the idea in my head. But football commentary, football reporting, where did this notion in your head all start that this was going to be your thing?
I think actually my parents would probably say that when I was really little, about 4 years old, 5 years old, I started commentating on FIFA games just before they added commentary to them. So maybe they knew then. I don't think this is normal. But I was absolutely obsessed with football from no age. It wasn't until I was a bit older, when I was 15, I got involved in my local community radio station, Clarke FM, which ran every summer and Christmas time in the town. And that gave me the appetite to work in the media industry. All of a sudden, this thing that I listened to radio all the time, but I didn't know I could do it. And there is a real resonance around the message of you need to see it to be it, in the same way that watching the Irish Cup final on TV every year and hearing a commentator from here cover it, and you're going, wait, people from here do this? And then you turn on the radio and there was people like Alan Green on Five Live, and you go, oh, they can do Man United and Arsenal and Liverpool games as well. What, people from here do this? It started to kind of all click with me then in my mid-teens, and a few years later, when I think I was 20, I won a BBC talent search for the young commentator competition that they were running at the time. You had to commentate on David Healy's famous goal against England. I very cringeworthily plugged a microphone into a laptop. It was quite a crude thing, and did a million takes of it. Nearly went hoarse, and it was the year Spain won the World Cup, so it was 2010. So we went on a family holiday, me, my brother, my parents, and I hadn't heard anything back from the BBC, so I thought, I've not won this, that's fine. And was home a couple of days, had a great time in Spain. Spain winning the World Cup, so it was quite the party. And then I got a phone call, and never forget it, saying we'd like you to come to Korean to do the Milk Cup. The first game's going to be Manchester United and if you're lucky, you might get to do one other group game. And so I went and I did Manchester United against the team from Senegal called Etoile Lusitana, and there was a lot of research involved in that.
Hmm.
And the first game was both games were on the red button, but the first game obviously nerve-wracking to have that chance and you go Man United. So there's going to be a lot of interest in this game outside of Northern Ireland. And thankfully it went well. And they said, you know what, actually, your second game will be one of the semi-finals later in the week if you don't mind. And I thought, oh my goodness, I thought I was doing another group game. So I got to do a semi-final, which was just incredible. And that is when I'd never done any commentary before. You can't count commentating in your bedroom on computer games. I I'd never done anything before. I'd done radio, as in music programs, but I'd never done anything like this, and I absolutely adored it. And that's when I was like, I need to get in. And over the next couple of probably 18 months or so, I was doing different bits and pieces between U105 and the BBC. And somebody spoke up for me and said, you should give this kid a chance. And I got a meeting with Brian Johnson, who's legendary producer at Sports Sound for many years. And Brian gave me what are called dummy matches, where you get sent out with the commentary teams. You do, we report at halftime, they record it and they listen to it and they give you a bit of feedback. I did three, and then I got to go out for Ballymena against Carrick Rangers in April 2012 was my first game on BBC Radio Ulster on Sports Sound as a reporter. Ballymena won 3-0. Jay Costello scored a hat trick. I'm from Carrick Fergus, so because they were probably like Carrick.
That's a blast of the past, Jake
That's
Costello.
yeah, Jay Costello. He loves to mention anytime I bring this up. But when I think back on it, it's funny. Your first game, Man United fan, first ever game on TV, Man United Academy. First ever game on radio, Carrick Rangers fan, and both of them lost. So never ask me for your lottery numbers, but it's weird how these things work themselves out, and it in the Sports Sound instance was the case of you go from there and you never look back. But how I got my first commentary was kind of funny, Peter, because there was then the next season started up because obviously April's the end of the campaign, really. Next season starts up and I'm reporting quite regularly, and they said there may be the odd week where we don't need you, and that completely normal for reporters to not be on every week. And I had said maybe one week if you don't need me, I could come in and I could sit and you could let me see it from your side, because even at that stage I knew, well, if I can give the producer what they want, I'm going to be a better reporter and I might actually get a bit further than doing all the bad habits that I don't know I'm doing. So see, basically figure out what annoys them and stop it. So Brian, incredibly professional, so unflustered, could speak calmly to six or seven people within seconds and go, we're coming to you next. We only need 15 seconds. Thank you. Okay, we're coming to you. And, and he has it all lined out. He's got everyone their timings. He was dealing with the presenter and keeping them in check with things, telling the main commentary team what they were doing. And, but this time where I came to sit in with him, it worked out quite well because it was the BBC Sports Sound Christmas dinner. And I, at that point, wasn't driving, and Brian was like, "Look, tell you what, you can sit in with me, and I can give you a lift to the Christmas dinner." He said, "But we're going to need to call by my house just after because I'm going to need to come back from work and stuff and get sorted." This is great. So I was sitting in his kitchen watching a match that was on the TV. Just stuck the telly on to keep me entertained. He went and got spruced up. Um, then I went and got ready, and then he was making notes on the kitchen counter. And sorry, what are you doing there? And he said, I'm just trying to figure out who's going where next week. Oh, like you're clearly going, can I see? But you don't want to do that.
Hmm.
And he went, come over and have a look and see what you think. And he had me down for the second commentary, which was Portadown against Glentoran at Shamrock Park. And it was a game where Portadown had gone into the lead by 2 goals, had two men sent off, and somehow conspired to lose 4-2. So they had me down second.
That sounds like a cracking game as your first commentary. I was going to be nil
Unbelievable.
nil, barely a shot on target.
Because initially he was like, do you think you could do that? And I was like, well, what does the second commentary mean? And he said, well, basically, you commentate all the time, but we'll only take maybe some goals and feed them in. We'll come to you live occasionally for little bits of commentary, but you're not the main game. So there's no real pressure on you, but prep for it like you're the main game because you never know. Okay, right, yeah, prep for like the main game. I've probably never prepped for anything so hard in my life. I was so nervous, and the game was incredible. So it really just kind of carried me, and I felt very relaxed. And they came to me, I think they came to me, obviously for all the goals, but it was like 2-1, 2-2, right? We're going to throw to you and let you do the last 10 or 15 minutes of this match. And Glentoran got a couple more goals. And so my radio commentary debut sounded like, this guy's great because the match had everything. And thank goodness, if it was a drab 0-0, I'm sure I would have sounded terrible because I had no experience. But thankfully, something was kind to me that day. He picked a good game for me. The players delivered, and it gave me the wee shot of confidence I needed to keep it going and say, look, please give me as many of these as you can because that was really fun.
What do you love about it?
It's the next best thing to playing. Always wanted to be a footballer. I'm not good enough to be a professional footballer, and I've always been obsessed with it from no age, creating little tournaments on computer games, learning all the players' names, knowing where they come from, and talking about it with my friends. It was just something that it really always captured my imagination. I had to watch every game on the TV as a kid growing up and played it in the street. Just it was like honestly eat, sleep, breathe football. So to have an opportunity to work in the industry, it speaks for itself. But in terms of commentary, it's so many things. I love the excitement of it. I genuinely, and I hope it comes across, the enthusiasm, just the passion of I am actually here seeing this and I can't really believe it and this thing's happening and telling you what is happening and being your eyes and ears.
It makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Yeah. There's nothing like being there. And then what's fun and strange lately is because my podcast will naturally be coming to an end with me leaving, I have been making a concerted effort to try and get some international footballers on and big up their journeys and find out how they're getting on. And they're people in their 20s and they're saying, I remember when you came and watched us play for Northern Ireland's under 18s. I remember when you came and I remember watching you do
Old man
this.
Clarke, eh?
And you're going, sorry, what do you mean? Patrick Kelly the other week, God love him. He's doing brilliantly for Barnsley. He scored a winning goal in the FA Cup recently, and I'm so pleased for him. He'd said like I think pretty much my childhood, you were always on commentating, and you're like your childhood, Patrick.
Child.
But I mean, it tracks if he's 21 and I'm 14 years older than him, nearly 15 years older than him. You reverse that back. Yeah, you were a kid listening to me doing commentary. So it's such a weird perspective because in my head, it's like, be quiet. That's absolutely ridiculous. The answer is Jackie Fullerton and only Jackie Fullerton. And I've done this for a while, but not for decades. But it just depends what age you are. And I did start out. I mean, I was asking the BBC for everything because there was loads of things that maybe weren't getting as much coverage. Please let me go and do the underage football. Let me do more women's football. Let me do because I got to do the first women's game shown on BBC Northern Ireland. I've got to do more women's Irish Cup finals than anyone else.
Mhm.
I'm very proud of my work in women's football because it was just underrepresented and their stories weren't told. And oftentimes things were misreported about people who had played over 100 times for Northern Ireland and people didn't seem to know what position they played. These things annoyed me. And I had a nice moment at the Women's Irish Cup final recently when I was working on that, where I was standing with Marissa Callahan, Julie Nelson, and Ashley Hutton. And I just thought, this is privilege. This is genuine privilege. These are three of the greats of Northern Ireland women's football, all represented different clubs famously, on the pitch rivals, but obviously also great teammates as well for their country. And here I am sharing a moment with them. And I feel the same way when I'm sitting talking to David Healy and Stuart Dallas and people like this before a game going, I I'm having this conversation like you're talking to me
Mhm.
like a peer. Sorry, How have I been allowed to do
Well, that's
this?
because you are, because you have worked. You've started. I think what might be considered relatively young, but you've worked and you've stuck at it. So of course they're going to see you like this.
It's just funny because when I started, I remember being really jealous of the seasoned reporters because they had this great rapport, especially at the internationals, when the players would come out and they'd go over to their favorite journalist and, yes, mate, what about you? And they'd start t chatting away, and you're thinking, wow, how could I do that one day? How could, and it's not that you want to be their friend, but it's just that they even know you exist and that you can be in a level you can have this chat with them and have that respect. And you have to earn it. You can't just show up and be loud or anything. You need to be smart with your questions. And I think people appreciate because when you start out, you're afraid of being critical. And actually, people don't mind as long as your heart's in the right place. If it's a fair criticism, they do expect it because they're operating at a high level and they get that anyway and they know that. And it's insulting to say that was good when it was bad. And so it's that sort of thing of realizing, no, I have to be able to say what's bad for it to mean something when I say it's good. And that's one of the lessons I had to teach myself over time. But I think that helps you get the respect from those people because if you can see it and they're going, yeah, we thought that, then they know that okay, he gets it. We can trust him a bit.
You're absolutely right. There is that weird line of where you're saying, "Oh, and he just didn't get his feet right," and you're like, "What do you mean he ballooned the ball? That's a dreadful miss."
Yeah.
And you kind of worry, how they would feel. But ultimately, sometimes you sit there, and this could be managers or players. They are putting themselves out there, and they kind of know that's a part of it. But let's also be fair. It's not like every person within the Irish League also signs up to that when it's about themselves. Any scraps or any bits of tension where perhaps you weren't as glowing as said person thinks you should have been?
No, those moments are fleeting. I have had conversations with people. I had a disagreement with someone about women's football because, and I explained it to a player because I felt that it would be patronizing to always speak in glowing terms because there was a real effort, and I understand why, to really try and promote the women's game. And just in case there's a conspiracy theorist listening, there's not like a BBC email goes out saying you can only say nice things about women or something mental, okay? It's just in general terms, everyone is trying to shine a light on these people and these athletes and give them their props. And you go out there as a commentator and you want to be a part of the experience in a positive way. You don't want to take away from anyone's experience of the match. Largely, if they don't notice the commentator, you've done a really good job. So that's okay. But there was one game, and I felt that the Northern Ireland women's team had really underperformed. And I'd said more or less that I thought that they had a stale first half. And someone had said to me, I thought you were quite hard on them. And I said, well, I disagree because I've watched this team qualify for the Euros. So if we're playing an inferior opponent and playing worse than when we play better opposition, players need to get used to this because for it to be taken seriously, and it should be, the feedback has to be fair. And that means it can be positive and it can be negative. And the person was like, well, fair enough. I said, you know when you've had a bad day on the pitch, don't you? Yeah. And I went, so why would I pretend that you didn't? Now, that player hadn't had a bad day, but it was just the example, and they understood after. But I've also had the opposite. I've had people come up to me and say, like, my dad loves you. I'm like, I've never met your dad. No, but your commentary on my goal last season, my dad just has that on his phone, shows his mates. And like that, your heart could burst for them. That's really nice.
You've hit the nail on the head there when it comes to that side of it because there can be a lot of, I feel like, negativity around the Irish League, and there's definitely the moaners out there, but it's being able to show enough respect to
Yeah.
something that you're able to be critical. And look, this is tough. There is players who fall out of favor and don't get the opportunity again, managers who come and go, and there's a lot on the line for these people. Being
Peter, to be
within the
fair, they are under pressure. I have had a
exactly.
manager swear at me in an interview before, and then he came and found me in a car park and apologized. I'm not going to embarrass them because it was just a moment of anger. I had a fun one. I can name this person because it was on the TV. I had a fun one with Ronnie McFall when he was the Glentoran manager, where he was furious about something, and Ronnie's rants. are legendary. I mean, God bless him, Ronnie, an absolute icon, an incredible manager, and really good company. I love seeing Ronnie at games, and he's still such a popular figure. And but he had this absolutely trademark rant one day, and as soon as the camera stopped, he went, "All right, son, thanks, see you again." And but because he wasn't ranting at me, I asked him a
Yeah.
question. He was angry about a subject, but I remember a family member who's big into football ringing me and going, Ronnie wasn't a great formula today. Are you all right? I went, "Oh, yeah, me and Ronnie are great." But it's that sort of thing I think sometimes people don't understand. There's the reaction, and the reactions to whatever the subject is. It's not necessarily to the interviewer, and you have to be able to, and I've always found that easy, separate yourself from the subject because they're angry about a refereeing decision or something that didn't happen or something that did happen. They're not actually angry at you most of the time, thankfully. So as long as they're not actually angry at you, it's okay.
Yeah, it's mixing that, isn't it, between these people who you are there to interact with, but you're there to cover and to sometimes criticize, sometimes
Yeah.
praise. From that first game, was it long before you thought, you know what, I can take this further? This is going. I know you always had that belief, but when you were regularly doing the commentary stuff, did all of a sudden you feel like this is something that's now going to become an absolute staple for me? Because it's not like you do a few commentary games and someone goes, here's the job, son. Like there's
No.
still a lot of other things to balance.
No, and in fairness, when I said I knew it was what I wanted to do, I mean, I just enjoyed it and wanted to keep going. I didn't really know where it would go. I didn't know how to go further. I didn't know how far was possible. I didn't, I really, and probably early on, I didn't think about it a lot, which was great. You just plodded along, and looking back on it at quite a great pace, I think I was escalated to some really big opportunities and big games, working pitch side at cup finals and different things like that, and getting to do maybe more than the average person on the program. And I'm quite glad somehow naively I didn't notice. And I know like people go, "What do you mean? What do you
I
mean?"
get it.
But it was just like, well, they're asking me to do it, so I'll just do it. It was that flippant in my brain. I was excited about it. I researched it. I was always told, my dad's bit of advice to me was always, whatever game you're doing is the most important game for those fans. So give it your all. You might know it's 6 out of 6 on the list. It's the bottom game. But if it's the fans of those two clubs, well, they care. Make sure you give it everything, that you're well researched. And probably when you get more confident, you start to learn how to add a bit of yourself into it and little bits of humor and
Well, that's
different.
that's the important bit, isn't it? To try and
Yeah,
add that, you're not just a blank voice.
no. And some games are rubbish. So how do you say that in a way that doesn't detract from the program, doesn't make it sound like this guy's complaining about getting paid to watch
Hmm.
football? What an absolute bore bag. How can we do this? So I've joked about nodding off before. I've said, well, the highlight of my half is that my colleagues just handed me a bar of chocolate. I've done all these sorts of things. I've counted the amount of pigeons on a roof. The- I've been here long enough, and I've seen some absolutely dreadful games of football that I've probably exhausted every polite way I could possibly think of saying. This could only get better. But when did the moment, come back to your original question, when did the moment click? I'm still not sure. I think probably getting the Northern Ireland games. When Premier Sports wanted me to do Northern Ireland for their, the host broadcaster, and then the rights go to Viaplay, and Viaplay want me to do it. And then when ITV got them for a few games, they were talking about me doing something for them, maybe pitch side. And then the BBC got the rights, and then they're going, well, we want you to do it. You have to, along that series of events, go, they keep asking me. It doesn't seem to matter who it is. People keep asking me. At some point, you need to realize that you might actually be able to do this. And I know that's bringing it up to modern day, but I'm probably a contradiction. I've always believed I'm capable, but sometimes I need that reminder. And those things have helped every now and again just give me a wee shot in the arm to go, yeah, you could do that. When TNT came along, when Lauren qualified for Europe, and they said, we want you to be our guy pitch side. And then they start throwing me Shamrock Rovers matches and, sending me abroad. And they're going, they were nearly like, you're actually not bad, and you're like, "Yeah, don't be too surprised, please."
Yeah,
But
but people are thinking, oh, look at this guy on the TV. He's made it. He's set. Get the Lambo, you know. But realistically, you've got that game, and you say goodbye to everybody, and you don't know when that next phone call is gonna come.
no, no, like the TNT Sport one, genuinely, I had a missed call and then I got a follow-up text message, which I thought was a prank. I thought it was one of my mates because it was from an unknown, it was a number I didn't have stored. And it was like, "Hi, this is name of person. We're wondering if you'd be interested in working on these matches." And I'm
Mhm.
like, "Oh yeah, of course." They just text you. Uh, so I was at Malahide Castle. Specifically remember where I was, and I sent a text back saying, "Look, could you drop me an email with more details? And when I'm home, I'll come back to you." And then I honestly, like a loser, was refreshing my emails for like the next hour, being like, "When's this email coming? I want to know what this email says." And then when it came through, it was like, "Oh my goodness, this is actually real." And had a nice wee moment in the car with my girlfriend where it was like, "This is happening." And that was really exciting too because I've always been able to straddle radio and TV, and I've enjoyed both. And Colin Murray said one time to me many years ago, when I interviewed him, that radio is his first love and TV is his mistress. And I kind of feel the same.
Well, I'm glad you've got there because in no way is this question framing that for some reason TV is the superior one. But there's definitely fewer chances with it. When was the first TV gig? When did that come your way after doing so many years on the radio?
This is it's so random. So I was hosting an event for the Northern Ireland Football League at Windsor Park, and always remember it. Among the luminaries were Nacho Novo during his stint in the Irish League with Glentoran, Rangers legend. I remember trying to think who was at the front. Was it me, Kirk Miller, Declan Cadell, Nacho Novo, and I think
That's a great name drop right there, Michael Clarke.
what a band that could be. Names in the comment section, no, please don't. So we were, yeah, I was hosting this event, interviewing different people, and it was genuinely, see, anytime I host an event in front of a real audience, as in all audiences are real, but you can see them. I always look for a friendly face in the room. It just calms me down. You're looking for someone who's smiling and nodding and looks like they think you're funny. And then you're like, "I am hilarious. This is fine. This is okay. I can keep going." So in this instance, near the back of the room to my left was this woman. And similar age to my mum, I think. And smiling, nodding away at everything. And every now and again, if I feel a wee bit nervous, I'm looking down, smiling, nodding away. There she is. Amazing. I keep going. Event goes well. Everybody's happy. Great. I try and just like make a beeline past everybody to go and find the nice, friendly woman to say, like, "You don't know this, but you actually, really gave me great encouragement tonight. Thanks for being brilliant." And she was nowhere to be found. So someone had said, "Oh, no, she was sitting beside such and such and she's left." Fair enough. So a couple of weeks later, I'm in the BBC collecting my radio equipment from Brian Johnson. I'm in the office, and beside him is the smiling woman. She wasn't particularly smiling that day, but she was just sitting beside him. And I said, "Oh, you were at the league launch a couple of weeks ago." She was. She said, "Yeah, I was." And she said, "You did a great job of that, by the way." And I said, "I didn't realize you worked in here. I'm really sorry. That's so funny." Told her, the story. And she said, "No, that's brilliant. No, honestly, was very impressed with you. Tell me this. Why have you never done any television?" And I don't know why I decided that, this is the great time to crack a joke. I said, "Because you've never asked."
Yeah.
Uh, and she was like, "Okay, well, we'll put that right. Brian, what's his availability like from next week?" And Brian went, "Oh, great. I think I'm about to lose you, Michael." And that was the start of me working on Final Score. And it was, I mean, what a fortunate series of events. I happened to be hosting something for Nifl. It wasn't even something I was doing for the BBC. So it was something I was doing outside of the BBC that got me noticed by someone in the BBC
Mhm.
who only happened to be able to join the dots together when I was in there to meet someone else about something else. So that's how it started. And then like anything, if you don't make a total mess of it, they just keep letting you do it, and hopefully you get a bit better.
How different is the TV to the radio comms? Because obviously people are able to see what's happening in front of them,
Oh,
and for the radio point of view, you're painting the entire picture. Do you like? Is it less stress when it comes to the TV because it's all there and you're getting the odd wee replay?
yeah, mm, bits of both. There's a real discipline to TV. It was hard initially because I had to learn to shut up. So I'll put the punchline in there for you. But I had to learn to shut up. And on radio, you don't. You're talking, talking, talking. And the great thing about radio is because nobody can see what you're talking about, you paint the whole picture. There's loads of stuff to draw from. There's what's going on around the ground, who's sitting around you, how full it is, what the weather's like, the lighting, the colors of the pitch, the boots the players are wearing, everything, and you can't be too descriptive. On TV, all of that, well, we can see it, thanks. So what else are you going to say? So now you have to speak less but say more. You're trying to be concise and really deliver, and that is hard. The other thing is you have shots. So, the maybe the opening of a program has a certain sequence of pictures. Your words need to complement what they can see. Whereas on radio, they go, well, we're going to cross over to Windsor Park now for our featured game, and it's Michael Clarke with whoever.
Mm.
And then you say whatever you like, kind of. Obviously it needs to make sense and set the scene, but there's no real order bar like a sensible one. Whereas on TV, it needs to match the pictures. For example, really simple thing. There's no point me telling you the team news for the home team before that graphic appears, and then I move on to the away team and the home team graphic comes up. That would really, really jar on TV. Whereas on radio, you don't go, well, he better do this within 20 or 30 seconds.
Mm. It feels so different. Like, not that I've ever done commentary, but I've heard so much about how the reporting point of view. It's how can you summarize this super quickly, get all the right points, but also hit the picture, and then get away. But you're sitting there for an hour and a half of commentary, and you're thinking, oh no, better save that fact for minute 67 because that needs to come into play. And when I jumped in to do the reporting, not that I wasn't, I was clearly an Irish League fan, a football fan, and you feel like it's going to be the most easiest thing in the world because you're just going to jump in and do like the dream. But I had to like almost learn football words. I
Yeah.
felt I had to sit there and go, hold on a second, because I can't just say, and then he scored a goal three times if it happens in the fifth minute, because you end up going, and then he scored, and half time is 1-0 because he scored, and and then that's the end of the game. It was 1-0 because he scored, and then you go to it for the final big roundup. So was like that's the funny thing about football. You have to
Oh,
learn your little words and
you're going
your
to get me to nerd out because that's a whole thing. For TV highlights, think about it. You've got a 90-minute match. Someone is going to edit that down to 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes.
yeah.
Think about that. So you could three times in 90 minutes say, the effort went just wide of the post. The effort hit the crossbar. The effort was well saved by the keeper. And in the highlights, you seem to be the person who only knows the word effort. Yeah. Everything's an effort
Did
for
you
that
did you
guy.
learn that the hard way? Did you learn your ticks the hard way one time? Going,
Yeah.
oh my goodness,
Yeah.
I've
And
said he rifled it in five
I
times.
can I can tell you the time and the place. Rod Non was the absolute gentleman who came up to me one afternoon at Stangmore Park and said, I've been listening to your reports and they're very good. Try find a bit more variety at times because there's nothing wrong with what you're saying, but when they edit it, sometimes the edit can be unkind. And
Yes.
it's not that someone's doing a bad job of the edit, it's just you've not given them much to work with. The other fun one was in our final score days, and people maybe know this, maybe don't know this. We, the commentators, were not seeing the replays that you were watching at 5 o'clock.
Hmm.
So we're commentating on it real time and then make believing a replay commentary so that they, because obviously they have all the footage,
Yeah.
can they can overlay that and it all makes sense on a highlights package. Whereas when I started, I didn't realize that. So I was like, I don't have a replay. Oh, he's nearly scored, whatever. And I stop. And then my highlights were really shonky. I was like, why my highlights not have as many replays? You're not talking enough. You're not giving them words to use to the pictures.
Mm.
So it honestly is a real education. And as I say this, people are probably listening going, oh, that's obvious. But until you hear it, I don't know that it is obvious at all. And no one had spelled it out for me. And thankfully, people have always, I think, been very good. I've had very good mentors, but Rod was very generous that day. I think I was queuing up to get a burger at Stangmore Park. I'm going to be really honest. I was there early, was going to get a burger. Rod nabbed me in the queue and went, "Can I just give you one tip?" And hey, it worked. It was great. So thank you, Rod.
Has it gotten easier,
Yeah.
or is the pressure made it so that you have to do a bit more? It just
No,
feels easier than before.
it's easier because I'm not saying, oh, I don't panic or I don't get nervous. I do, and sometimes I'm mid-sentence going, where am I going with this? I mean,
Amen,
it
brother.
still happens. So for any young or new broadcasters out there who are taking up commentary or early into their commentary journey and thinking, I don't know why this happens to me because it just does. Sometimes you just have a brain fog for a moment, and or you might just say something doesn't make sense. So don't worry about it. You have to just keep going. But it gets easier in that you know what your routine is and how to feel really prepared for a game as best you can and how long it takes you. It's minimum 8 hours for me for a commentary prep, and that is genuinely a minimum. I'm not making that up. And then I start to feel, okay, now I can go to the game. Now I can talk to people before the match. I can start to get little bits of color and insight that I can add in and build on top of that. And the only bits I'll ever script at all potentially are the intros and for big matches especially because you really want to make people feel something. And for me, I was really pleased with getting to do the Irish Cup final, the men's Irish Cup final for the first time. Huge honor for me. That was a big thing that I wanted ticked off my to-do list, and to do that was extremely rewarding and enjoyable, and for it to be such a memorable final and what it meant to Dungannon Swifts, that was kind of the icing on the cake in many ways. But and to show Cliftonville had no hard feelings, they gave me work on their European football. Actually, both clubs did, which was really nice. Um, but I had an idea of what I wanted to say, and I kind of freestyled it, but I had it written down as like I'm going to roughly go here with it, and then I chucked in I don't know why at the last minute I was like, these are the days where heroes are born, and
Hmm.
whatever, and just a little line that it came to me in the moment, and it sounded good. Thankfully, I was like, I'm just gonna say it and hope for the best, and thankfully, people seem to like it.
But that's what you want, isn't it? You want to have those. Everybody wants to have the think it's all over,
Yeah,
and
yeah. Oh, like you can, and I really, really mean this. You cannot script that in terms of
no.
the iconic in-play commentary moments. There are people who will go, well, if this happens, then maybe I might be able to say something like
Mhm.
this. I accept that, but I really believe I can sniff out people who go to lines or rehearsed lines,
Yes.
and I detest it with a passion on a commentary where it's like this robotic. I'm just going
Hmm.
to copy and paste these very clever words in. Sometimes the best commentary isn't that intelligent. It's just like you think of it, Aguero, Martin
Yeah.
Tyler. That's a name said with gusto. The pause is almost the best bit of the commentary because it just allows the moment to breathe, and then he adds to it. But it's not overly complicated in sentence structure. There's not loads of words to juggle around. You'll never see anything like this ever again.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Summed it up perfectly and concisely. But if someone had written that, they'd have written a whole poem about Aguero and everything it meant to Manchester City and everything else. And thank goodness that isn't what it went out because Martin Tyler did a great job of it.
It's a question I ask a lot of people here. Usually, it's ex players, the few that I've had on here, or managers perhaps. In 2025, going into 2026, right now, is the Irish League in a better place than it had been previously, do you think?
Yes, in lots of ways, yes. I think maybe in terms of quality, there's a little question mark around that. I don't think we're getting the entertainment from our games at the moment necessarily all the time. Partly, I put that down to the you see it in the full-time teams. I think it becomes a wee bit more of a chess match, a bit
Hmm.
more measured, actually a lot more measured and risk averse. And so it can be difficult to watch. And I hold the League of Ireland in very high esteem. And my first few times watching Dundalk, who were doing great things when I started covering the League of Ireland to some extent, and I was going, like, these games aren't always the best, but they always seem to win, you know.
Hmm.
And it wasn't that they were playing poor football, but it was very measured and it was even paced until it wasn't, bang, 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 goal, and then rope a dope until you want to get another one. So it depends how you want to measure things. Is it as electric this season? I actually don't think it is, and it's a wee bit annoying to say that because I obviously want it to be, but we've got a really good title race.
But that goes back to respecting the audience, where you're able to go, isn't everything brilliant, fantastic, wonderful? Yeah, some games maybe aren't as thrilling, and perhaps maybe this season isn't delivering in the same way when it comes to drama. But with that, it's still worthwhile watching. Of course, it is.
Now, the problem part-time teams find themselves in is players expect more money because of the direction the league's traveling in. The full-time clubs are paying a certain amount of money. People that can't go full-time are then expecting a little bit extra if they're going to come to these other clubs. And that is something that will always make me nervous. I don't want teams spending beyond because like there's this thing at the moment where every team I go to says, "Yeah, but do you see them? They're spending a fortune." Like
Oh, it's wild.
isn't it?
It's
So,
wild.
so there,
Everybody's spending so much money, and they barely can afford a cup of tea.
it's the same old song, and I do think teams are spending more. So there is an onus on the league to make sure that they actually keep this regulated as best they can. We do not need teams putting themselves in peril, and there's a problem where when you're seeing other teams spend more, you feel they need to spend more, and that can spiral. So realistically, it's a difficult one for clubs. Don't spend, find yourselves relegated. Do spend, find yourselves potentially still relegated because you might not have spent as well as someone else, and you could be relegated and with these players on your books that you can't afford. So it isn't easy. I wouldn't want to do it, and there's still a lot of volunteers involved in the Premiership helping with clubs, and we shouldn't overlook that because it's such a difficult job that they're having to do under increasing pressure.
Yeah, I also reflect upon where we've been. I mean, we're similar ages, and 2012 was your first game.
Yep.
To now look at where we are now, I think if you were talking to one of us in 2012, you'd be surprised to see so many games that are now being streamed, being put out there. The amount of full time teams, and then
Yep.
you'd also add in the amount of players who are suiting up to be full time Northern Ireland internationals that have played meaningful football in this league. Like, it's you must feel a bit of pride in that as an ambassador for the league.
There's a huge amount of pride being associated with the league. I've always felt that. I've always been really strong in that because it's my roots, it's what I've come from, it's what I know. And through years of doing this, I've got to know people involved very well. There's nobody managing a club in the Premiership that was managing that club when I started reporting. That's that's weird. That's how you know you've been in it for a while. That'll probably become less of a unique thing to say if the Moneyball scenario continues. We're going to see a quicker churn. But I was having this conversation very recently with somebody. Um, do we think those days are gone almost of the Stephen Baxter type reigns at Crusaders, the Ronnie McFall era? That's something again. But can people really see that happening? And I'm not so sure that it will. David Healy's obviously done 10 years at Linfield, and fair play to him. That is nuts at a club of that size. The pressure and the criticism, and even for winning more titles than he hasn't, and he'll still not be flavour of the month. And that's not to say that some of the criticism isn't merited, but it's such a big beast of a club, and people probably can't fathom it unless they're inside it and start to feel it. I remember I told this story years ago. I actually remember tweeting this story after a Glentoran manager was sacked and accidentally annoyed loads of people, but whatever. Here, I'll bring it on myself again. Uh, I stood outside the Oval one Boxing Day when the Linfield bus were being given verbal pelters by the Glens fans. You're getting sacked in the morning to David Healy as he came out and got onto the bus. Obviously, the Blues didn't have a good Boxing Day, and they were making sure he knew all about it. A few months later, Glentoran sacked their manager. All these years later, a few more Gibson Cups for Mr. Healy, and he's still in charge. And that isn't me making fun of Glentoran. That isn't me bigging up Linfield. That's just trying to explain how crazy football is. That one day this guy's getting sacked in the morning, he's useless, and we're going to tell him. And a few months later, actually, you think your fella's useless, you want him out the door, and that boy you were berating, he's actually down the road and he's still doing fine.
There's plenty of debates in Irish League circles, and you're obviously stepping aside, right? Anything, if you were in charge and you could make it happen, what would you like to see the league do differently?
Ooh, where would I go with this? There's loads of options. I would,
Is there loads of options? Do you think there's a lot of things that we could be doing better here?
yeah, one of them, I would like to see some sort of experimentation with how we develop referees. I think that you could look at some
You
sort
know
of,
what? People were not expecting that answer.
yeah, I think how we can develop referees, how we can create a pathway actually for referees to get opportunities in Scotland and England and Wales and the Republic of Ireland. Why not make it a gateway like it is for footballers? How many referees in Northern Ireland do you know that go over and have careers in England? I presume they would have to leave here, and I can't really think of anybody. I'm sorry if there's somebody, but like off the top of my head, it's so difficult. So why could we not have pathways? So we bring in some young referees from other places, give them experiences, but also bring them in. And rather than importing them from the far side of the world, I remember talking to Mark Clattenburg when he was chaperoning the Saudi refs and things like this. And they, God love them, they had some really difficult games to manage, and culturally, what their threshold is and what they're trying to meet is very different than what our fans want, and something that I've tried to explain to people, and it's sometimes it falls on deaf ears, and it's a frustrating one. Is to me, it feels like at times our referees are trying to work to a UEFA standard once they start working in UEFA competitions, and then they bring that we would locally call it as being pedantic, nitpicking, fussy. It's that sort of thing where they're going, well, this is how I get marked when I'm doing that at a high level, so should I not be consistent with my refing? And that's hard for it's hard for referees as well. We've had a lot of referees leave, some retired, obviously have sadly lost one through Keith Kennedy passing away. And with these things all happening in close proximity, then you're going, well, where do we find this next batch of referees? One idea I had was like an all Ireland academy where you could put it into provinces. And could we have an Ulster Referees Association essentially? Feel free to come up with your own names for these, but you work in your own pools and potentially you swap them round if you needed to. But it gives referees here the chance to work a bit in the League of Ireland, but equally the best can be put into a programme where they might be highlighted to the Scottish FA, English FA, Welsh FA for chances to work in competitions elsewhere too, so that actually it's a career with greater progression. Maybe more talented people would want to work in it. Maybe there can be more funding. Maybe the wages are a bit better. Maybe it can be a bit more professional. And that's not a slight on our current referees. I just don't think, despite how hard they're trying to recruit them, I don't think we've enough referees in this country at the moment. And that is going to show on a match day because you can't sideline refs when you don't have enough refs as it is.
Was COVID a good time for you in the sense of you were out of games, you weren't able to do it, but also through COVID, we have this new way that the Irish League is, where there's so many streamed games, which obviously then give you all these extra opportunities?
So eventually, yes, is the answer, isn't it? Because there's this necessity all of a sudden to stream games. Put yourself in my position where I haven't commentated on a game in 4 months. Like everyone else, I'm going
You're going back to the you're going back to FIFA.
going stir crazy. I'm posting comments on Facebook. You're just I'm bored. You're like, oh, he's posting more regularly on Facebook. Get him out of the house. I was going nuts, and then I get a phone call to say, great news. We're going to televise the Irish Cup semi-finals, and could you do the first one? I'm like, oh, good. The first televised game in months, and it's me, and I'm Rusty. And you're going, I hope this game delivers. And it was Ballymena Korean, and I was with Stephen Baxter, and it was in an empty stadium, and they were trialing the fake sound. Do you remember the fake sound?
Oh my goodness, one of the I feel like that's the Rubik's cube of the COVID era, where like things that just really nail a certain time and place.
And what was really funny was they had their like this goal Atmos
Yeah.
that they were really proud to have sourced and sounded, yeah, it sounds like a goal. And you're like, except there's just seats. So where's that coming from? So,
That
okay.
must have been really weird doing that
Oh,
with no fans around. You're probably
it's
thinking the players going, I can hear you, mate.
so at Windsor Park, it's forgiving because you're really far away. They
Yes.
can hear you, but you're also like, I'm so far away that I'm protected from this somehow. You tell yourself it's fine. The first shot that went wide when they played the goal celebration by mistake because they thought it had gone in. And I'm like,
Yeah.
don't laugh on the TV, be a professional. That was hilarious. And what was also really funny was one of the crew had come to us 90th minute, or well, no, it was about the 80th minute and said, because it was 1-0 to Coleraine, well, we order the pizzas now, the post-match pizza.
Yeah.
And the crew get to tuck into a meal. And we're like, yeah, think we're good here. This match, the match was really poor. Yeah, that's fine. Get the pizzas in. And then in stoppage time, as Ballymena fans will remember, they equalise to force extra time. It goes to penalties, and they progress on penalties. And I'm going, oh, my pizza. So I don't think I sounded disappointed on commentary, but I was sad inside, dear listener, because my pizza that I was really hungry for. What a pathetic thing to complain about. But all I could think about was, I think I had a cookie with that as well. And it's going to be cold inside, and they're the
Yeah.
nice gooey ones. So, well,
Heart,
what can you do?
heart's bleeding for you now. Come
I know it's
on.
tough. But Peter, when you were in grounds and fans still weren't, then I was really, really fortunate because there was all the COVID protocol. It's not like you go up and mix and chat to people in the grounds. We weren't having a great old party, but at the same time, I was there and you weren't. In terms of anyone listening to this, so I was very, very privileged, and it really helped me, and it shaped a lot of how I thought about things then. And my podcast, I felt like is generally around an hour. But what was happening is I'd phone someone for a 15-minute yarn before I'd get the next person on. But nearly every person wanted to talk to me for an hour because they were stuck in the house and they're like, "What was that like? What was that like? What did you think of that? You were actually there. I couldn't go to a game." And you're going, "Yeah, it was just a really bad time for a lot of people." So the one good thing that came out of it was the streaming and the access to more matches, and thankfully the BBC have continued that, and I think it's been a good thing for the league. I know for a
Massively.
fact that scouts across the UK and further watch all the time, and players in different leagues, some of whom have come through ours, watch as well because it's live football and they actually really enjoy it.
Totally. It feels like pre-COVID is just such a different. We feel that in many facets of our life
Yeah.
that it was this moment where everything changed. But within the Irish League, it absolutely did, and it gave you more opportunities, and clearly gave you the platform to be where you are today. One thing I think doesn't get noticed with you commentators is that you're having to share duties with an ex-player or ex-manager. Oftentimes, you've had many different partners along the way. Is that kind of funny where sometimes you're bringing in someone to sit beside you and do TV or radio? This is your 350th game, and this is game one for them. Are you doing a bit of training with some of these
Yeah.
some of these pundits?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the BBC knows I will look after them. And I've always said, give me new people. And I've said that when I'm going out and commentating on games, because I've been in an office before many's a time, and there's a new reporter. They're looking to get out to a game. Yep, send them with me, no problem. I embrace that. People did that with me. I think it's just paying it forwards or paying it back, whatever the right way around. No, paying it whatever direction you need it. You're just doing a good turn for someone else. When you're out in the commentary with me, I want to make sure my co-commentator enjoys it. I don't want them to feel like I'm throwing them under a bus. What do you think of that when I have a good idea they haven't seen it or they don't know? There was the famous case of the talk about COVID times, the penalty shootout. Crusaders want to forget all about it, where Johnny Tuffy got sent off,
Hmm.
and the laws of the game were implemented correctly by the officials to the letter of the law, and I had the unforgiving task in many ways. It's just not a great task of having to say, yeah, the referee technically is right there. Strictly speaking, the referee's right. Nobody wants to see this. I don't want to see this. Stephen Baxter's irate. I know that everybody working on the program was cross about it because they're going like, what is this? There were ex-players that didn't understand it, and I made sure that I just took over that moment because I was very keen that one, I know I'm right, but two, in the event somehow that I'm wrong, it's me that falls on the sword and not the person working
Oh,
with me.
massively.
You know, and I'm the commentator. I'm meant to be the lead. So when it gets a bit tricky, lead. And that's the way it is. But in fairness, most people that I've worked with are very good at it. It isn't for everybody. It's
Hmm.
difficult. It's hard to know how much to say, what to say. You can be too honest or you can be too blunt. You can say the same thing in a different way and have a better
Hmm.
response to it. And you won't know until you try it. But yeah, look, I love working with different people and I'm like a big sponge, just learning from them and trying to understand what they're seeing.
I love that you talk about those kind of big moments, and because you take, for example, was it in the European playoff where the Ruddy penalty that wasn't?
That was also me.
I was thinking, I have a feeling it's you. It's gonna sound really
Uh,
rubbish if it wasn't.
and
And
in
and
close
some
in close proximity to each other, Peter. Like they
yeah,
were so close together, those games.
and you're kind of thinking, how do I say this without? Because you have to say it factual,
Yep.
but you also kind of have to go, well, is it? Was it
So
like I was there for the ghost goal of Windsor Park this year,
yeah.
and a part of me loved it. I must say, a part of me kind of loved it. I was like, and the real, but then I remember doing report going, and the real story of this game is going to be about the referee, and you think, have I totally misjudged the tone? But then it's nice when you go back and you go, no, that was the story, rather than just playing it safe of, oh, it was 3-0, let's forget about it.
Yeah, it can be scary.
Yes.
It can be scary. Michael's penalty was clearly over the line. So, but it wasn't given and they lost. And I also knew that it was very likely to be his last game for Crusaders,
Mm.
which is very sad for Michael and obviously not great for Crusaders given the impact it had on them at Solitude. My commentary, though, I didn't say immediately that I was certain it was over because I thought, let's just wait till we see the replay because you could be.
Yes.
I defy any of you. When you watch a football game, every single person has watched a football game and jumped off the sofa, jumped out of their seat in the stands and gone, that was obviously in ref. And then you've seen it back and gone, oh my God, I was
Oh
wrong.
no, no,
Oh, no, never mind. I'll take it back. And you don't want to be that person when you're actually the commentator. So you
no.
need to be extra careful. I had the luxury of a replay. And then when you see the replay, you're like, oh, dear me, that's terrible. And what was also really scary was I was waiting for Stephen Baxter to come out and be interviewed after that. And I could hear my voice multiple times at different times. I'm going, is that my commentary? And what I realized was it had been put up online because I mean everything's instant now.
Uh
And
huh.
it was up online, and there were people working at the match and players coming past who all had their phones up and were listening to go, what did he say?
Yeah, because
And
you could become the story here, and that's the last thing you want to be.
And I'm just sitting there going, I haven't watched this back since actually doing it. I hope everything I said was okay. And actually, Stephen Baxter came out and was very magnanimous because he said in that instance the referee came in and apologised profusely. And I think, to be fair, it shows you quite often you want the referees to get things right. But outside of that, if they can at least own up to when they've made a mess of it, you can swallow it a lot easier than when they try and cover it up. And this isn't me being anti-officials. Referees know I've broken bread with lots of our referees and tried to educate myself better so that I don't fall into the traps of criticizing them when actually sometimes they're right and we don't know that the laws have
Mhm.
changed. That happens too. But those are anytime you put yourself forward like that with a strong opinion. The other one was when Linfield beat Coleraine a few years back at the showgrounds and Stephen Fallon scored a worldie from outside the box, but the referee got a bit close to play and the ball had hit him. So play should be
Yeah.
stopped. But he sort of didn't know what to do. The ball fell to Fallon really quickly and he blasted it in. Linfield won. And I said the referee touched it, and the referee wouldn't do an interview afterwards. And then everyone got a wee bit angry, and from Linfield, how can you say for certain it touched the ref? Why did the referee go and consult the linesman for nearly 2 minutes if he knows it didn't
Hmm.
touch him? Think about that. Why was the referee in between two players when the ball dropped out of the air in the first place? And look, this isn't me hammering somebody for a mistake. I'm not naming the ref. They'll know who they are. It's not trying to drudge that up. These things happen. You have to call them for how you see them. Equally, I've been there and said, what an incredible advantage a referee's given. Raymond Krangle given the advantage for what ended up being a bit of a storybook moment for Declan Cadell out of retirement, scores the
Hmm.
goal to put Crusaders back in the Irish Cup final. If he doesn't play the advantage when the foul's made, Cadell doesn't score. So you have those two. So yeah, you just hope that what you say is ultimately right, even if it isn't always what people want to hear.
Who would you say is the best Irish League player you've ever seen?
Ooh,
I think
no.
it's an interesting question because we would, like I said, similar eras.
Mm,
So it's not like you're gonna go, "Ah, Billy McCutcheon back in '52."
no.
It's gonna be, and obviously you will have your own version of what you would clarify as the best player.
Yeah,
And if it's a centre back, I'm shaking my fist.
no. If you'd have
You're
said
not that
fav
hipster.
if you had said favorite, I'd say Paul Heatley. It's my unashamed answer. Uh,
I would agree with that.
absolutely love watching Paul Heatley. Completely understand why he irritates the life out of everyone that has ever come up against him, especially Cliftonville fans. Completely understand it. I really do. And he can be a right menace when he's on the pitch. But what he was able to do throughout his career has just been so exciting. And as a Carrick Rangers fan, what he was able to do for my team in really a short space of time was incredible. And obviously, it propelled him on to go and win league titles and everything he managed to achieve. I, as a fan, I saw Spike. So if you're including as a fan in my lifetime, I still would always say Glenn Ferguson for longevity, goals, all that. If you're talking about him really in my career, Liam Boyce maybe.
That's I wouldn't have said that. What did you love or what do you think was so impressive about him?
Just a great finisher. Just an unbelievable ability to be in the right place. And it's one of those things where people think that's a mistake or a coincidence. How is he always in the right place? How does he always do that? And there's all the stories about him sitting up to stupid o'clock at night playing computer games and all the bad habits he used to have and hopefully um, doesn't have any more if Tiernan Lynch is paying any attention. But no, look, Liam Boyce is a really talented player, and that Boyce and Gormley partnership really, really
Iconic.
special. Really, really special. And I covered some great goals that they scored, just knowing where each other was. Yeah, I've been so fortunate to watch a generation of incredible players. It's weird now because I was at a Christmas do with the football writers recently, and the PFA walked in, and kind of all their elder statesmen of the
Hmm.
PFA are just lads that I watched play football. Stephen Lowry, Mark
Yeah.
Patton, Ross Redmond, all these guys who have had really good careers, who are around the same age as myself, who when I was a reporter, they were early in their careers. and now they're at the end of their career, and I'm a bit further on in mine, and it's just amazing to see the work that they're doing, and obviously, um, they're still running about in football pitches and contributing, so it's brilliant. But yeah, it's just you could name a whole pile of people, Peter. Honorable mentions for like Sir Joe Gormley and Andy Waterworth, but I think Boise, just from my 12 or 13 years, who would you pick?
I think it's Hickney for me. I think from just pure eye test of the goals he scored, his ability to dribble, his ability to finish, and then it's maybe the skills. Like the amount of times I just see games where I'm like, this boy's unplayable. That he's the one that kind of stands out to me. And I think I might know the answer to this question. Do you have your favorite Michael Clarke commentary moment in the Irish League or within Irish League football? Let's just say.
Ooh, uh, and then I go blank. The one that always comes to my head is the Miguel Chinez overhead kick against Ballina,
Showing your
which
bias now.
helps keep Carrick up. And that was, I also managed to report on Carrick Rangers being relegated, as Newry City fans love to remind me. I've hosted several end of season dinners for Newry City, and they're a great bunch. But my first time meeting Darren Mullen was him as a proud manager on the pitch in Carrickfergus, celebrating relegating my hometown team. And I'm there saying, Darren, this is an absolutely incredible achievement. Tell us all what it means to you. And internally, I'm going, you've wrecked things for my team. But obviously, that you just bury that. And I told him after, and he had a good laugh about it. But I've always had no problem separating the two. Yeah, I think it's probably not technically my best commentary or anything like that. Um, Probably, I know outside of the Irish League, commentating on Isaac Price's hat trick goal against Bulgaria is one of my absolute favourites because just everything about it felt right. You could hear that I was absolutely buzzing. I was thrilled for him, and I just didn't think I'd see a Northern Ireland player score a hat trick, let alone somebody so young.
That's true. I say young. I would in my head he's older than me because he's a Northern Ireland international. So that makes him a man, and I'm not a man.
They're all babies. They're all very
Yeah.
young men.
Like I said, I wouldn't know a GameCube if it fell from the sky. Michael, I mean, what a brilliant career you've had in the Irish League and within football in Northern Ireland, and you're gonna continue on flying the flag. You're like one of you're like a Stuart Dallas. You're going on to do your thing, and we'll watch from afar, and we'll be like, "Oh, did you see Michael Clark's doing Macclesfield Rochdale this week? Oh, it'll be great comedy on that goal, So we'll be keeping tabs on you from afar.
Well, thank you, and look, I'm sure I'll be home for plenty of visits and able to see people and all those sorts of things, and like to think I'll be no stranger to Irish League grounds and Northern Ireland matches. It's been a blast, and in this career, never say never. Who knows what future
Absolutely.
chapters may hold? But this next one is taking me to England, and I'm really looking forward to it. And just because I'm on this platform, can I, use this opportunity to say thank you to everybody that has sent me lots of nice messages. It was more than overwhelming. I don't really have the words to describe what it was like
You
when.
must have been buzzing before you put up that post. I haven't had any of that level, but it's a bit like for me. I remember before you put up the wedding photographs, or before I don't know, like my band's going to announce an album or something. You're like, everything is going to be a bit bonkers as soon as this pops up, and then you
Mm.
see the mad reaction.
No, I've never seen anything like it for me in my life. So goodness knows when I have other big life developments, what what people may respond like. If it's lower than that, I'm going to really judge some of you. But
And the
genuinely,
transfer graphic thing, did that come to you after you got the gig, or have you been thinking for the past 5 years? As soon as I get the big gig, I'm doing the transfer image.
no, it was really weird. I got offered the job, and then they said, "When can you start? Like, can you start ASAP?" And I could have already started in October if I'd have wanted.
Yeah.
And I said, no, please, can we give it to January because I need to get stuff in order and moving country. I need to get myself sorted. I want to give work notice and all those things and yada, yada, yada. And then when I got off the call, I was like, That's like a January transfer. So I actually made it then. I made it the day I got offered the job and then sat on it for like a month before I could share it with anybody. I sent it to my brother. I was like, "Is this funny or is this like rubbish?" They went, "No, it's quite good." I went, "Okay." And I sat on it for a month and then posted it. And to be honest, like I thought it was like, ha ha, very good. But I got like 2,000 messages. It was just it was mental. It was absolutely mental. And then, as I say, people are coming up to me in Irish League grounds and thanking me and stuff. It's all a wee bit weird, and I don't really like compliments, so I found it a bit overwhelming.
You liar. You love
No,
it.
no, it's actually a bit like, right, okay, enough, and it's that sort of say well done and then just leave me alone a bit. But uh, yeah, thank you to everybody that's been very supportive. It's great to know that I've played a small part in helping to promote the league and that people have appreciated it.
You've done more than a small part, like Patrick Kelly kind of proved. You are very much a voice to many people who follow the league. They'll have many, many fond memories of you commentating big moments for their team, and also probably the gut-wrenching moment when it's like, and the team's to score past you, and you're really excited about it. It goes both ways. And we're recording this before your final game. Do you think when you do it, you'll be a bit emotional?
Probably. Yeah, I think so.
Because at this point, you know there's only X amount of games left in
Yeah,
the Irish League.
I know all
Like I
my.
said,
I'm like
you probably
John
will
Cena. I
be
know
in.
my final dates, Peter.
I knew a wrestling reference was going to get in here somewhere. Can I say this? Is your announcing career? Do you think it's safe to say it's over when it comes to wrestling?
No, why would it be over? No, no,
Never
no.
say never, eh?
Like I'm disappointed. The WWE have not reached out to me to work. Are they serious? The road to the Royal Rumble in the
Well,
SSE Arena in Belfast. No one can afford a ticket. My God, have you seen the prices of them? You could. It's just ridiculous. But I have shared a ring with Joe Hendry. You want the viral moment on the road to the Royal Rumble? Bring Joe Hendry back to the UK and bring him back into the ring with me. That's all I'm saying. That is all I'm saying.
yeah, I did see him get a boojum when he was wrestling in the Europa Hall and all the likes, or the Europa Hotel. Anyway, back to the question, Clark. Get to it. Will you be sad, emotionally tinged as you go? And final score here, 2-0.
Yeah. All being well, I'll be sitting in the presenter's chair for my last bit of Irish League action.
Nice.
So that'll be literally, as I say, bye bye. It'll be really a bye bye
Yeah,
at
will
the
be.
end of that. So yeah, it'll be quite poignant, I would think. And
You'll have that moment script, I'll tell you that.
yes, I'll try my best to get that right. And look, don't worry, it's not going to be an Emmy award winning speech or anything because people who have done this a lot longer than me, whose jobs it was to sit in that chair, excuse me, for a very long time, didn't make it about them. I'm not going to make any program about me because it never is. But at the same time, that moment and being a part of it will mean a lot to me, and I think that that's the thing that I would say. But yeah, I know my last game, and I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully it's a good game for me to sign off on. But then I'll have a sports sound to look forward to in the presenter seat before I get on a plane and head off.
And you skedaddle. No, like I said, wish you all the luck. I think people will absolutely miss your voice. They'll miss your podcast as well. I know you'll not know what to do with yourself when you're over there. I'm sure they'll keep you busy. But Michael, you were the first guest on this podcast, and I very much appreciate it. I'm sure I'll get you on some way, somehow down the line. But hey, get out of here.
Peter, been a pleasure. Congratulations with all you've done so far in the podcast. And have a good one, my friend. I'll talk to you again soon.
Chat soon. Thank you very much for listening all the way to the end. We miss Michael Clarke, don't we? But what you don't want to miss out on is, of course, Kick a Match Live. If there's tickets available, you can go get them right now. Your phone's in your hand. It means you don't miss out. Putting lots of energy, lots of ideas into this show. And I can't wait to do it all over again. Friday, 31st July, Centre Belfast. See you there. Cheers.